Breast cancer kills more than 41,000 American women every year. Researchers in the San Francisco lab are working to shrink that number, and they're doing it with an unusual weapon, marijuana, or at least a compound from it.
And what we found is that this compound called cannabidiol was particularly effective at inhibiting aggressive breast cancers.
First, scientists at California Pacific Medical Center discovered a key gene which enables breast cancer to spread. Then they tested the pot compound and realized it could actually inhibit that gene's destructive path and stop the spread of tumor cells, and potentially do it without harming a patient.
We know that this compound extracted from cannabis is non-toxic in patients because it has already been used for different kind of disease.
The benefits may not stop there. Scientists say the cannabis compound may fight other aggressive cancers, including prostate cancer. The next step, animal studies, then clinical trials. So it may be several years before patients may benefit from a cannabis cancer fighter.
I think it's a promising avenue in terms of the treatment for aggressive cancers, and which is really where we need treatments for.
Marianne Favreau, NBC News.
You see, when I talk about these age-related illnesses, we're all aging, but we don't all come down with cardiovascular disease. We don't all come down with autoimmune disease. We don't all come down with cognitive dysfunction. We don't all come down with cancer. But the chances are we're going to come down with one of them. All right? And here we have this one drug that's able to help us holistically with our biochemistry to restore balance. You know, cannabinoids kill cancer cells in many cases. People are not aware of that. They think cancer, cannabis, anti-nausea. It's way beyond that.
Really? Can you talk more about that? We have time. Would you please?
There have been a number of cancers that in experimental situations, breast cancer, prostate cancer, pheochromocytoma, lymphoma, leukemia, skin cancer, a whole variety of cancers that in experimental situations, meaning in tissue culture or in animal models, you can in fact show that cannabinoids kill these cancers. And a lot of people are quite excited about the ability of these cannabinoids to kill cancer cells. There are some studies that have shown that cannabis, I think they specifically used THC in that case. It was an earlier study from quite a long time ago, I think in the 70s, where they looked at cancer, in particular rats, I think, and showed that they were able to inhibit cancer, lung cancer specifically. Really? In Madrid, it was a different story, not from the 70s. This was done by Manuel Guzman's group within the past less than 10 years, and what they showed there was that originally that THC, when injected into a brain tumor in mice and rats, a significant number of those animals the tumor would regress and disappear, so that you actually had survival of rats that would otherwise die. And they examined all the surrounding nerve tissue, and that was all fine, because remember, once again, cannabinoids protect nerves. So here you have such an interesting situation. This anti-cancer drug now, THC, is killing tumors and protecting the surrounding tissue. That's totally the opposite of what happens with all other chemotherapeutic approaches. So it was a result of those animal studies that they did a fairly small clinical trial, because after all, you wouldn't want too many dying people to get high. You know, I mean, that wouldn't be good for them. But they did find in this fairly small study that, if I'm remembering correctly, there was some extension of life, and also they were able to show that a particular very important biomolecule called VEGF, vascular endothelial growth factor, was it turned down. And there are other studies that have shown that cannabinoids turn down VEGF. And the reason this is interesting is this is one of the therapeutic targets that a lot of pharmaceutical companies are trying to develop drugs for. The reason being that cancers, we all actually are probably making little cancers in us all the time. The reason we don't get tumors and the reason we don't die of cancer is because in the absence of these VEGF and similar compounds, there are about 30 of them now, that in the absence of those compounds, the tumor can't get a blood supply. So it just kind of seals itself off, and the immune system basically, you know, keeps it under control, and nothing happens. But and cannabinoids have been shown to turn down VEGF, and that's what they found in that clinical study, that VEGF seemed to have been turned down as well. So it's quite an amazing spectrum of compounds that are in that plant. And what's so unique and incredible about them is they are touching on this incredible system that pervades all of us and regulates everything from, I tell people, cradle to grave, because it's in mother's milk. So it's soothing you from childbirth, it's stimulating the appetite of newborns, it's helping them promote growth. I think cannabis is a miracle drug because there's nothing else that impacts on so many of our illnesses. So what are the kinds of things that we can do to try and promote health in these areas? On the one hand, everybody should make sure they take in enough essential fatty acids. They're called essential because we can't make them. And certainly I would say one of the best sources for that is that we should be consuming hemp oil. And the reason I say that as opposed to fish oil is because you can get organic hemp oil, so it's not going to be contaminated with things like mercury. And that's going to allow our bodies to make our endocannabinoids. We often hear about the beneficial effects of things like omega-3s and omega-6s. At least some of the attributes of those compounds are the result of them being converted into these endocannabinoids, into these marijuana-like compounds. So at least that way your body can do what your body can do. You're giving it the tools to make the things that you need. But in many cases, that's not sufficient, and we have to supplement beyond what our body can make. And there's only one planet, or there's only one plant on the planet that has the capacity to really mimic the way our body works with these endocannabinoids, and that's marijuana. So marijuana actually directly mimics these particular compounds, and as a result, it has these strong neuroprotective effects. But because marijuana and these endocannabinoids, their activities are so pervasive in our body, they literally regulate every system in your body, your immune system, digestive system, reproductive system, cardiovascular system. Everything in your body is homeostatically maintained by endocannabinoids, meaning balance. They are how our body tries to balance how we interact with our environment when our environment becomes stressful for us, stressful psychologically, stressful biochemically. So these are very, very critical compounds, and the use of cannabis can have a profound effect in terms of helping to stop nerve degeneration, helping restore functional nerves, helping restore new ways of thinking. And this is just really touching on the surface of the humongous number of benefits that this plant can have for so many different illnesses. It's not that we should be limiting it to one thing or another. In my mind, for most age-related illnesses, and a lot of these toxin-related illnesses fall into that category in terms of how they affect our cardiovascular system and their immune system and our nervous system and cause cancer. These are all really illnesses that fit under the umbrella of age-related illnesses. And they all have at their basis inflammatory kinds of responses that produce free radicals, and what our cannabinoid system is evolved to do over many hundreds of millions of years has been to protect us from those kinds of imbalances, to restore the kind of health that we need. And because of our environment in particular, and because we are living longer, we need to be able to adapt very rapidly today. And we can't do that on an evolutionary scale. The way for us to do that as people, as intelligent people, is to make sure we're eating good diets, stay away from toxins, and eat these essential fatty acids, and when necessary, consume cannabinoids.
When people have to suffer because of money, or people making money, or whatever, that is just not right.
When the doctor can't cure you, and you want to get cured, you're going to try anything, aren't you? I was willing to give it a shot, yes. I'd give it 2 shots.
Change your life. Come and take some real medicine. Medicine that is safe, and medicine that works for a change.
My name is Rick Simpson. I live at 344 Little Forks Road, just outside of Macan, Nova Scotia. I'm here to tell you about the most medicinal plant known to man, hemp. Oils made from the hemp plant are the most medicinally active substances ever found in nature. Up until about 85 years ago, hemp medicines were widely used all over the world. Many drug companies in the 1800s and early 1900s produced hemp medicines for decades. Hemp is a plant, and therefore it cannot be patented. To drug companies, no patent means no money, hence no interest in producing this drug. When you examine bud from the hemp plant, you can see that it is covered in resin. This resin makes the bud appear to be covered in frost. This resin is the medicine. When collected and processed properly, the resulting oil is an effective cure or control for practically any disease known to man, even cancer. We have supplied this oil to dozens of people with cancer. Even people who were diagnosed with terminal cancer by our medical system now have a clean bill of health after treatment with hemp medicine. When working with this medicine, medical miracles are a common occurrence. This oil has brought many people right off their deathbeds. Due to the restrictions put in place by our government against this medicine, we feel that it is our duty to inform the public how they can make their own. In reality, this medicine should be produced on a grand scale in a controlled environment, using the highest quality starting material. Producing hemp medicine in this manner would stabilize the potency of this medication, plus any danger associated with this medicine's production could be eliminated. High-potency hemp oil can be produced right in your own home or workshop. Later in this video, we will show you how this can be accomplished observing simple rules of safety. We do not approve of or condone this method due to the safety issues involved, and we bear no responsibility if this information is misused. If you or someone you care about has a life-threatening medical condition that our medical system has failed to help, there is a very good chance that hemp oil is the answer to your problems. There are 3 different ways to use the oil as a medication. You can ingest it, you can vaporize it, or you can use it topically. But for internal diseases like cancer, lung cancer, that type of thing, the internal treatment works magnificently.
Well, I've had 4 open heart surgeries and probably 5 pacemakers. I've been through the mill as far as medical stuff goes. And I started taking this because my father was taking it for his cancer, which he doesn't have anymore, but this came along. It works perfect. It lets me do a day's work, or as much as I can safely. Let's face it, after 4 open hearts, you are still limited to what you can do, but I go all day. The wife and I 4-wheeler all over the place. It virtually gave me my life back without the pain.
I have suffered from major depression since the age of 27. I suffer from anxiety attacks. I've also had 3 back injuries with constant aching in my back, and that for years. And when I took this medicine, it seemed to take the aching from my back. It seems to cut down my panic attacks. And as late as I keep going on, it just seems to get better and better, my depression and anxiety attacks.
I had a huge mole on my shoulder that was black and it had a crusty, it wasn't a natural mole, and I'd been sort of concerned about it. And so actually knowing from Rick mentioning that it cured skin cancer and removed stuff like that, I decided put a little oil on my mole and see if it works. So I put a little Band-Aid over it. I only applied it for like 3 days and then another 4, and then in 2 weeks it was completely gone.
Well, I had skin cancer. It's melanoma cancer, they told me. I was treated time after time, and I was burnt several times. I call it burnt. They have another name for it. But anyway, they burnt me several times, and it wasn't doing no good. All the salve they gave me, I put it on. So I ran across this fellow they called Ricky Simpson. Well, you see my face. I know it's all wrinkled up, but there are no big holes in it.
I used hemp oil for a number of conditions. Migraine headaches, cyst on my ovary, arthritis, bad skin allergies, snoring, upset stomach, diarrhea bad, something wrong with my bowels, and helped with every condition that I had.
I had 2 months to live. I was cashing in, I didn't care then, and got a hold of Rick, and Rick explained how this stuff works. The chemo and the radiation just kills everything inside of you. It doesn't give you a chance to live. And then when I look at my hemp oil, that's why I am sitting here today telling you that hemp oil does work.
Skin conditions, cancer, diabetes, infections, glaucoma, arthritis, chronic pain, burns, ulcers, warts and moles, any condition involving mutating cells, migraine headaches, asthma, insomnia, anxiety and depression. It works to regulate your weight. It heals scar tissue. It rejuvenates vital organs. In fact, I would like someone to show me what it can't heal.
When we began, Rick asked me to find out if there was any detrimental effects to the hemp oil. As we searched, we couldn't find any, and the research kept coming back with all the good aspects of the medicine. And as we kept looking, then we ran into Dr. Guzman in Spain, who's done research since 1999 into hemp oil. The International Cannabinoid Research Society has been researching it for 17 years. They have research papers from various researchers and research organizations, including Health Canada. Well, in our research, we haven't been able to find anything that appears detrimental. Everything is beneficial from the oil. Cannabis and hemp traditionally have been used to treat alcoholics and recovering drug addicts, and it hasn't changed over the years. They're still using it today in some cases, but most medical facilities don't recognize it. I believe they don't recognize the product because of the disinformation we've been handed over the years. It's touted as an illicit drug rather than a medicine. In the research that we have, the most amazing part of the product is the medicinal value to it. Especially in the eastern countries, yet mainstream medicine refuses to recognize the validity of it.
To anyone that would say that I am nothing but a high-class drug dealer, to that I would just have to laugh. I mean, drug dealers, they sell it for a big price, and they make the money. I've been giving it away since 2003.
Well, I'd have to be the stupidest drug dealer in history to give it away, now wouldn't I? How do you make any money if you're giving the stuff away?
Well, that's exactly right.
I'm just trying to help people, Christian. I mean, that's all this is about. And I want people to know how to heal themselves.
In 1975, I was listening to CKDH radio when the announcer came on with a report of THC from the marijuana and/or hemp plant killing cancer cells. 3 years previously, in 1972, I had watched my 25-year-old cousin die a horrible death from cancer. So when I heard this report, it certainly caught my attention. But time goes by, and I never heard any more reports, so I assumed that the report I had heard could not be true, or the system would be using THC to cure cancer. In 1997, I received a serious head injury at work. The doctors put me on prescription drugs, but these drugs did nothing to alleviate my condition, and many of the drugs had horrible side effects. In late 1998, I watched an episode of The Nature of Things entitled Reefer Madness 2. Dr. David Suzuki interviewed many people with serious medical conditions who had been using hemp as a treatment. The results were amazing. After seeing this program, I purchased some hemp and tried it. Just smoking hemp did more for my medical condition than all those pills the doctors were giving me, and I told them so. I asked many doctors for a prescription for hemp, but was refused. All the doctors would do is tell me that hemp was bad for the lungs and to stay away from hemp. It's still under study. Even my family doctor said it was bad for the lungs. So I asked him what he thought about me taking the essential oil from the hemp plant and ingesting it orally as a medication. The doctor agreed that this would be a much more medicinal way to use this drug, but would still not give me a prescription, so I could acquire this drug legally. In 2001, my family doctor informed me that there was nothing more they could do. They had nothing left to try on me, so I was on my own. I continued producing and taking hemp oil as my only medication. Slowly, my thinking processes cleared from the effects of all those chemical drugs the doctors had given me, and everyone around me saw the improvement in my condition. The oil had worked wonders for me. In late 2002, my family doctor examined 3 areas on my skin which he presumed to be skin cancer. One was close to my right eye, another on my left cheek, and another on my chest. In January 2003, the cancer close to my right eye was surgically removed, and they were going to schedule me to have the other 2 cancers removed at a later date. About a week after the surgery by my eye, the area was infected and very angry looking. I was examining where the surgery had been done when the report I had heard on the radio in 1975 popped back into my mind. I knew the oil I produced had concentrated THC in it, so I put some oil on 2 bandages and applied them to the other 2 areas of skin cancer. In 4 days, both cancers were gone. Needless to say, I was very excited about the hemp oil curing my skin cancer, so I went to my doctor's office for a copy of my pathology report, which stated that I had basal cell carcinoma. I informed the receptionist that the cancer had returned, and that I had cured it and the other 2 cancers with hemp oil. The reaction of the receptionist mystified me. She went rigid, saying, "The doctor will not go there. The doctor will not prescribe this." I was standing in my doctor's office telling them that I cured my cancer with hemp oil, and they didn't want to hear it? Foolishly, at the time, I thought the system wanted a cure for cancer. Seeing the receptionist's reaction to the hemp oil left me feeling very uneasy. It felt like the Twilight Zone. In April 2003, I contacted the Pain Management Center in Halifax. I had been told by a friend that the center might be able to provide me with a license to possess hemp. All I got was a recorded message stating that there was a 21-month waiting period, and that you must be referred by your physician. Now where did that leave me? My family doctor wouldn't even talk about hemp medicine.
Big-time controversy brewing in a small town over this. Is it a cure-all or contraband?
Now, here's somebody dying from cancer, they're not dying anymore. Here's somebody that had something else, well, they're cured. And this is what's doing it.
But in a small Nova Scotia town, one man is trying to get the word out about what he says are the healing properties of hemp oil. But as Ross Lord explains, where he's spreading the word has created a major headache with no cure in sight.
In McCann, Nova Scotia, this oil is gaining a reputation as a miracle drug.
That's the cure right there.
Oil extracted from marijuana plants. Rick Simpson has been making it and giving it to friends and neighbors. He calls it hemp oil. Others know it as weed oil. In small doses, he says, it makes you well without getting you high.
Hemp oil containing THC has been touted as an effective treatment for many diseases, including cancer. But distributing THC, the psychoactive ingredient in marijuana, is illegal. And that has some Nova Scotia users worried their supply of medicinal hemp oil will disappear. Global's Ray Bradshaw has the story.
I'm used to it.
Hemp oil is being used by some people in the McCann area of Nova Scotia to help in the treatment of cancer. Now they're worried their hemp oil will be taken away.
People are being very scared of the RCMP coming in their home and taking their medicine from them. And the whole community itself is living in fear down here, including my family.
That's because the hemp oil Rick Simpson is making contains THC, an illegal substance. He says there's medical proof that THC kills cancer cells. Rick Dwyer says Simpson's hemp oil cured his father's cancer and other diseases.
It took the fluid off his lungs. It repaired the prostate. It did so many things for him. He doesn't even take his insulin now for his diabetes because it controls his diabetes.
Amherst RCMP told us they won't likely track down people who use hemp oil for medicinal purposes. But the RCMP say it is illegal to provide people with hemp oil containing THC, whether or not the supplier is paid.
Simpson grew marijuana on his property and made hemp oil from it. This fall, RCMP confiscated the plants, but didn't arrest or charge him.
They took it here, so what's to stop them from going house to house?
Simpson says without marijuana to make hemp oil, he's been unable to supply people. He's hoping the attitude toward the drug will soon turn around.
People are dying for no damn reason. I'd like to see the most medicinal plant in the world just get the recognition it deserves.
For Global News in Macan, this is Ray Bradshaw reporting.
The more money you spend on cancer, the more cancer you get. And the reason why is there's been virtually no movement in the field of prevention.
So what are we spending all the money on?
Well, we're spending the money on screening, diagnosis, and treatment. In other words, damage control. You wait till they get the cancer, and then you try and treat it. As such, the more drugs are bought, the higher the profit. Now, the more disease there is, the greater the profit.
I'm in Paris because there's a huge international conference here full of some of the biggest drug companies in the world who are pitching their latest cancer treatments. And cancer is a huge business worth billions of dollars, and they get a big chunk of that. So I want to ask them what they're doing to fight the cancer epidemic.
A big part of the story is about money. Obviously, there are limited amounts that Canada can spend on cancer, and at the moment, the biggest chunk of that money goes towards the drugs and the treatments. Obviously, big bucks at stake at the pharmaceutical conference. And they kept talking about, oh, there's so much stuff in the pipeline.
What is your company doing to fight cancer? What are you doing to fight cancer?
It helps to feel better when you have chemotherapy.
So how's business?
Great.
How's business?
Business is right.
So how big a part of your business is cancer drugs now?
It's 80%.
Got drugs in breast cancer, drugs in colorectal cancer.
We're a cancer company, yeah. Cancer treatment company.
Do you have anyone in your family who has
with cancer? My father.
Oh, really? What
he died.
Sativa strains produce an oil that is a very good antidepressant and tends to energize a person. But most of the hemp oil I produce comes from indica strains. Indica strains tend to relax a person and give them more sleep. Rest and sleep are part of the healing process.
Place the starting material, preferably good bud, in a plastic container. Dampen the bud material in the container with the solvent you are using. Then crush the bud material. After the bud has been crushed, add more solvent until the material is completely covered. I generally use pure naphtha, but 99% isopropyl alcohol also works well as a solvent, as do many other substances. Work and stir the contents to let the THC dissolve into the solvent. This process takes 2 to 3 minutes. Drain the solvent from the starting material and put it through a coffee filter. The solvent now resembles the color of gasoline due to the presence of the hemp oil in the solvent. Make sure the area where you are going to boil the solvent off is very well ventilated. The idea is to carry the fumes away from the boiling solvent to reduce the danger of an explosion or fire. Special care must be taken to avoid red-hot elements or a spark of any kind that could ignite the fumes from the solvent. I have found that an electric rice cooker boils the solvent off very effectively. Bring the solvent oil mix in the rice cooker to a boil. Use a fan to carry the fumes from the solvent away. As the solvent boils off, continue adding more solvent oil mix until it is gone. As the level in the boiling pot comes down for the last time, add 8 to 10 drops of water. Since the boiling point of water is much higher than the boiling point of the solvent used, this water that was added allows the solvent to be released as the oil thickens. As the last of the solvent is being released, it is a good idea to lift the rice cooker and keep the contents in the cooker moving. This helps release any remaining solvent and also protects the oil from too much heat. At no time should the temperature of the oil go over 290 degrees Fahrenheit. Gently pour the oil from the rice cooker into a small metal container. Put this container with the oil into a dehydrator, or put the container on a gentle heating device such as a coffee warmer. It may take a few hours to evaporate the water off the oil. In the end, there should be no bubbling or other activity on the surface of the oil. When the oil is hot, it is quite runny, but as it cools, the oil takes on the consistency of a thick grease. Generally, a pound of good hemp bud will produce about 2 ounces of high-grade oil. Ingesting this amount of oil over a 2 to 3 month period is enough to cure most serious cancers.
I started taking it because I ended up with chronic pain from a blood clot from my last operation, and there was nothing they could give me except standard pain pills, which I can't take because I get addicted to them right overnight, and they're just too hard on my system. Every pain pill I've ever tried has caused me nothing but grief, and like I say, if I take them for more than a week, then I'm looking for them all the time. So I call that addiction. I don't know, whatever medical term you want to put on it, but they destroy me is what they do, because I got no strength, no energy, no pain for a few days, but then the side effect of pain pills is pain. But yes, I'm definitely a believer, because I'm walking proof of it. And don't we all deserve to feel better, right? Without destroying ourselves? I think it's terrible the amount of drugs that they shove into everybody, and we're the little robots, right? We're told to take that, so take that. Doesn't matter that they just tear me apart. They're just not good for my system. Well, they're not normal, right? Anything that starts working against you, and of course you ask them, what does this actually do? They never really know. It might help you. Well, you're talking about your life or death. Might's not good enough. I ripped all the muscles off the bone years ago. Well, four-wheeler, pulling it out of the mud, but, yeah. Anyway, like I say, I get cortisone shots for it, but it still wouldn't work. I could grab it, pull it down, but to just reach back and do something like that, it just didn't want to go there anymore. I was told by the doctor that would never come back in my shoulder because it had literally ripped the muscle off of the bone. He said it'll get to the point where you can use it, but that's always going to cause you trouble and never work right again. That was his opinion. And he was right, up until I started taking the oil.
Eric's father got diagnosed with fast-acting lung cancer and was given 6 months to live. And because I had recently read about it, I said, well, what about hemp oil? And just to see what his reaction was. And so maybe, I said, had you read about it in the paper? Like, maybe we should talk about it.
Once I found out that it would work on this, I said, well, sure, I'm willing to try it. And never go back now, I can tell you that. After talking to Rick, he said, it works on chronic pain. I said, well, I'm your candidate to try that because I've lived that since '99, every day of my life. I go to bed with it, I get up with it. If I wake up in the middle of the night, it's there. It just never went away. Now I get a full night's sleep. I feel good when I get up in the morning. The pain's never back the way it was.
I always knew that marijuana was medicinal. I knew it worked for glaucoma.
Oh, my eyes, my glaucoma. I forgot about that. Yeah, glaucoma. I had that bad. Mine was up to I don't know if you people understand too much about glaucoma, but anyway, the pressure in your eyes, that's what it is. One eye's down to 14 and the other one's